Hello, everybody. Lovely to see you all. We are going to dive right in and we are going to be chatting about one of my favorite topics. I work with a lot of women who are 45 and over, and I work with a lot of women who are postmenopausal. And postmenopausal women tend to, unfortunately, it is the sort of nature of what happens to our body as we age and our hormones drop. We tend to gain a little bit more weight, and we tend to gain weight specifically around our midsection. And that is what tends to happen. And so a lot of the women that I work with come to me because that is what is happening, and they're upset about that. And maybe a lot of the women who I work with have been gaining slowly for a few years, and they are at the point where it's almost the tipping point where either they're super, super unhappy with the way that their body feels, with the way that their body looks. It's affecting their confidence. It's affecting the way that they look in clothes or want to look in clothes. And also it's beginning, more importantly, to affect their health. And maybe we're seeing LDL cholesterols, which is the real number you want to look at, because heart disease is the number 1 killer of women in America who are over 50. And so when you see that number climbing up certainly above the 100 mark, needs to be definitely below 100. That's the LDL, the bad cholesterol. So we start seeing these things starting to happen. We start seeing A1C creeping up, which is the marker for showing whether you are pre-diabetic or going towards being type 2 diabetic, and many other markers as well. And so, this obviously is upsetting for a lot of women. You don't want to be in that place. You don't want to be overweight, because that's obviously puts you at higher risk for most chronic diseases that we obviously want to avoid in our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s and beyond. And so that's really what I'm all about, is helping women to lose weight naturally, and more importantly, how to maintain. So once you've reached that ideal weight, then how are you going to maintain it? Because what we don't want is, we don't want to just lose it by way of a silly diet or a drastic weight loss, anything, and then put it all back on again. That makes anybody feel very defeated and like a failure and hopeless and helpless over time. So what I really wanted to delve into quickly today is, it's all over TikTok, it's all over social media, it's all over TV, it's absolutely everywhere. It's unavoidable to not be aware of the enormous marketing engine behind weight loss injections. And these injections commonly are known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Originally intended for diabetics, and then type 2 diabetics, and to bring blood sugar down, and to release more insulin. And it can be helpful. Some of these drugs can be helpful, but there is a better way of bringing your A1C down and actually reversing your disease. Nonetheless, that's what they were created for. And then it was found that there was also some weight loss there as well. And so they are now being prescribed in lower doses to help lose weight. But there is a big problem with this. And I want to delve into that a little bit in this session today. And I just want to sort of really lay it out for you, the facts out for you. And then, more importantly, I want to go over 3 ways that I'm going to go over 3 ways that you can regulate your appetite naturally without having to resort to a medication, a pharmaceutical drug that could be deleterious to your body long term. I want to show you 3 ways that you can regulate your appetite without having to resort to these drugs. Because what these drugs do is they help you to regulate appetite. Basically, that's what they do. Aside from the helping to bring blood sugar down a little bit, and the results are not massively impressive even for that, and to pump out more insulin. The big piece, and I think why so many people who are not type 2 diabetic and are overweight are flooding in drives to get these drugs, is because of this piece, because it basically regulates your appetite, and in many cases just takes your appetite away so that food doesn't taste nice. It tastes disgusting. Which is a little bit sad, because as far as I'm concerned, food is healing, food is medicine, food is to be enjoyed, food is to be celebrated. And the only way, that you are going to truly heal your body, feel vibrant, energized, beautiful, age-proof your body over time, is to feed your body with all the nutrients, the macronutrients, all the macronutrients, not just some of them, but all of them, and the micronutrients. And how the heck are you going to do that, may I ask, if you are injecting yourself with a drug or taking a medication orally that literally takes your appetite away and makes food taste disgusting? Yes, you may have an initial weight loss without having to do any work for that whatsoever. Just take the shot and then not eat, basically. But the sad thing is that it's not something that is going to help you, most of you who are watching today, I would imagine, get the long-term, beautiful, overarching, holistic result that you want. Okay? So very quickly, these drugs are basically GLP-1 agonists. What that basically means is you create something called GLP-1 anyway in your body. We all do. And it's just one of the hormones. It's actually a hormone that helps to regulate your appetite. And so what these drugs do are they're agonists or analogs, if you like. So it's sort of a very crude way of saying it is it sort of pumps more of it, makes your body create more of it, so that your appetite decreases or regulates. I think regulates isn't such a good word as far as these drugs are concerned, because certainly anecdotally what I've heard is that it just wipes your appetite off. You just don't feel like eating anymore, or food tastes disgusting. Again, how sad is that? Because food, and really healthy foods, should taste beautiful and wonderful. We should be able to trust our taste buds and our sight and our smell to be able to find and source the foods that are so beautiful for our healing and enjoyment and what's natural for us. So that's what they do. Simple as that. Now, there are risks. First off, there are side effects. So the side effects include nausea, dizziness, diarrhea, constipation, vomiting. And there are, most people experience this, and I've heard sort of horror stories of that. And then I've heard kind of it was sort of, went away a little bit over time. But there are side effects. And I've heard some women needing to take medical grade laxatives to even be able to go to the bathroom. I've heard others with their head down the toilet. Not very pleasant. So those are some of the side effects. We don't know at this point what the long-term health risks are. What we do know is, and this is a trial, and I hadn't got my glasses down here because I wanted to have the notes, the actual facts here for you, is that it was found that in periods ranging from 1 to 3 years, those who have taken these GLP-1 agonists for periods ranging from 1 to 3 years have been associated with a 58% increased risk for thyroid cancer. 58%. That's almost a 60% increase of a risk for thyroid cancer. So that's a little bit of a worry, obviously. Now, here's the thing. These drugs are so heavily marketed because it is a multi-billion dollar industry. billions and billions and billions, given the fact that 40% of Americans are, obese. So you can imagine the drug company is just rubbing their hands together because there's such an enormous market. And they're quite costly. So if you were to take these drugs, it's going to put you back about close to $16,000 a year. It's about $13,100 a month. And even with coupons and all the different, companies and stores and pharmacies and whatnot will add coupons, it's going to be close to that anyway. But here's the thing. If it gave you a healthy, permanent result and healed your body, then if it was something that was going to be helpful, not in any way harmful to you, then okay, fine to invest in something that's going to bring you health and feeling confident and feeling happy, then I can understand you may go, that is absolutely worth it to spend whatever, 15K a year. That is a great investment. But here's the problem. You've got to keep on spending that every single month or every single year, because people who are participants and trials that have been done of men and women who have taken and stopped taking the drug, 2/3 of their weight came back in a very, very short period of time. And over time, it's very likely that all of your weight will come back. Why? Because you haven't changed. You haven't changed your brain. You haven't changed the wiring of your brain. You haven't changed anything other than just taking a drug that has taken your appetite away for a short period of time. So there's where the problem is. I mean, yes, there are the side effects. Yes, there is the unknown. We don't even know yet what the long-term side effects are. So there's a big problem. So is it something that is an investment that's going to heal you? I don't think so. And again, I'm really clear in saying if it is, then fantastic. But it's not. We all know it's not a long-term solution. So I think enough said about that. I'm just seeing if there's any more little facts that I wanted to throw in here. Okay, let's just get straight to what does work now, because now we've looked at this, and the other piece that I just did also want to throw in here is that I can't underscore enough how the women that I work with are almost all my clients are over the age of 45. Many are over the age of 50. Many are in their 60s. And at this time of our life, at this age, almost everybody who I work with is top of their list, almost top of their list, aside from, yes, they want to look beautiful, feel beautiful, release weight, is to prevent disease in the best possible way, put themselves into optimal health. They want to thrive with optimal health so that they can have strong bones, feel vital, strong body, feel amazing, look as young as possible, feel as young as possible. And to me, the really heartbreaking thing about these drugs is that they are not going to deliver any of those benefits. None of those outcomes are going to be achieved by injecting yourself with a drug. So that's the kind of heartbreaking piece to me, as somebody who works with women, helping them, get in their best shape and health of their life. Now, let's talk about 3 things that you can do to regulate your appetite. Because if we're assuming, well, the problem is that you just can't stop your appetite and you can't stop eating and you crave comfort foods or certain foods or whatever it is, then let's look at how you can regulate your appetite in a way that is natural and that will lead to all the benefits that I know those of you who are watching want. Feeling energized, clear brain, fantastic, good about yourself, and knowing that you're doing everything you can to age-proof your brain. My goodness, for those of us who have ever been around anybody who's had cognitive decline, so, many women in my age group, we have, elderly parents. We know a lot of people who are suffering from the sort of disease of that come with aging. And so, that's when you're up close and personal to that, then it becomes very real. And you're like, okay, what do I need to do? So the good news is that the 3 things that I'm about to give you, all of these will help with disease prevention. Even if your gun is genetically loaded to predispose you toward any of those diseases. As I always say with genetics, the gun might be loaded, but it depends on whether you pull the trigger or not. And knowing that 80% of chronic diseases can be prevented by changing your lifestyle. Now you're in the driving seat. Now you get to take control of your health destiny. Now you get to feel empowered. Doesn't that feel amazing that you can take control as much as you can of your health destiny? We can't always guarantee that nothing's going to, happen. We're not going to have an accident or something's going to happen. But even then, at least you put yourself in the best possible place and strength and health to be able to withstand whatever, happens to you or anybody else, any of your loved ones. What I always say, it's just like you want to put deposits every single day into your wellness bank account. Just keep on depositing in and in and in and in, because you never know when you might need to dip in that for a rainy day. So start now. The time to start is now. Whether you're watching this and you're 40 or 30, some of my clients are a little bit younger. They come in and they're like, can I still work with you? I'm in my 30s. And I'm like, come on in, because you're going to get to nip this in the bud. So I don't care whether you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, or 70s. It's never too late. You have the keys to the kingdom. You can be empowered. You just got to stop listening to all the noise and all the BS around us. All right? That's what we got to do, ladies. You can do it. You can be empowered. You can do it in a way that is inspiring, natural, inspiring those around you, your children, your grandchildren, right? They don't want to see that their family having to take drugs and everybody feels a little ashamed, embarrassed. Women who I know have done that. It's all like kind of on the down low because they feel a bit embarrassed or bad about it. It doesn't align. It doesn't feel right. So instead, what about stepping into a lifestyle? Does it take a little bit more work than just doing an injection for $1,300 a month? Yeah, it does. But like anything worthwhile, the journey and putting in the work and putting it together and learning how to do it and building that muscle and strength mentally, physically, emotionally, that's where it's really at. And as a coach, if anyone's on today, any of my beautiful clients, that's what we do. We empower ourselves. Not a better way to live. Right, let's finish off and get to those 3 things. Number 1, this is how to regulate your appetite naturally, is lean towards a whole food, plant-based way of eating. Diet. Now, I use the word diet, but just think about it for a moment. The word diet does not mean weight loss. The word diet actually means, the definition of a diet is what you eat, right? It's just what you eat. And so in this respect, when I'm talking about the word diet here, I'm not talking about a weight loss diet, because I do not believe in calorie counting, portion control, tracking calories on an app, any of the above. I've worked with hundreds of women over the last few years, helping them to get into the best shape of their life. Nobody counts a calorie. Nobody worries about portion control, but nobody. So we just don't do that. It doesn't work. If any of you have tried any of those apps like Noom or MyFitnessPal or whatever else it is, it's not a strategy. It's not a long-term efficacious strategy. So leaning towards a whole food or completely adopting a whole food plant-based diet. We have so much data now. We have so much science now. This is not just my opinion that I'm pulling out of nowhere. This is the data that we have to follow. This is the data that is currently being sent to the FDA so that labeling can be put on these drugs. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes, because obviously these drug companies, the drug company that is promoting these drugs, these weight loss drugs, they are spending millions and millions of dollars, campaign contributions to congressmen, to doctors. If anybody saw there was a 60-minute special back in January where they, unveiled these amazing weight loss drugs to doctors. Everybody's being paid. Everybody is being paid. That was basically a paid ad. The doctors who were on that segment dressed up as, oh, it's this great thing. It's a really it's good journalism. It's honest. No, it's all paid, because obviously there's a lot of money to be made. So make no mistake about that piece. So whole food plant-based diet. Now, why a whole food plant-based diet? When you're eating a whole food plant-based diet, the magic word comes into play, which is fiber. And those who adopt an exclusive whole food plant-based diet, you are going from about 20 to 30% fiber a day, the missing nutrient, by the way, in most people's diets. People go on and on about protein or carbs or whatever, but what about fiber? So you go from about 20 to 30% fiber to 80 to 90% fiber. So what does fiber do? Well, number one, obviously, it's not rocket science. It fills you up, but it also signals stretch receptors in your stomach that signals your brain that you are full, that you're satiated, particularly if you're eating a well-planned. It has to be a well-planned whole food plant-based diet. Don't think that I'm just, because I have a lot of women that I work with or come to me and they're like, oh, but I've been vegan, or that can be very unhealthy. It can be full of processed foods, very oily foods. It has to be a really well-planned whole food plant-based diet. Make no mistake. And I really want to be very clear about that, because there's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. So that's one reason. So you've got the fiber. You think you just put that much cheese or an animal product, piece of chicken, let's say, in your stomach. Is that going to fill you up? And is that going to signal the stretch receptors in your tummy? No, absolutely not. So you're going to eat more and more and more and more and more. So that's really important. The other thing is that when you consume these plant-based fibers, really great question. I'll get you to that in a minute. There's a question about fatty liver disease, and it's a great question. I'm going to take some questions in a moment. The other piece is that when you eat fibers, and this is just getting into the weeds of the science a little bit, but I just want to touch on this. When you eat specific plant-based fibers, it's really about your gut microbiome. So the good bacteria in your gut, and again, I'm making this very, very simplistic here. The good bacteria in your gut consume this fiber that you're giving them. It's like food, it's like fertilizer. And then they're going to release compounds called short chain fatty acids. And short chain fatty acids not only can help to heal your gut, because a lot of people have digestive issues over time. And again, if you do have bloating, severe digestive issues, again, it takes a lot more customization and personalization and planning. It's not just simple, oh, just eat a whole food plant-based diet. You're going to need a lot more help with that. These short chain fatty acids also regulate appetite. So it's a direct feedback loop to your brain. So those two things alone, massively increasing your fiber, not by taking a fiber supplement, that doesn't work. Just take out all the stuff that doesn't have fiber in it, which is going to be largely animal products, fatty, obviously processed foods, because they've had all the fiber processed out of them. And then you're going to learn to fill your diet with insoluble and soluble fibers that come along with everything else that you need with them. It's like the full package. So you've got all the macronutrients and all the beautiful micronutrients you need for beautiful skin, beautiful hair, nails, a strong, lean body, energy, and everything else you need. So it's just a win-win. So that would be number one. Number two is get addictive and processed foods out of your life. Just get rid of them. The clients that I work with, and again, if there's anybody on today, you'll know that we go literally cold turkey. There is no moderation, because there are so many ways. It's, we do baby steps, or 80, 20, or you can have a little bit of this, or a little cheat day, or, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work because why? These foods are so addictive. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. The food manufacturers make even foods that are seemingly healthy. There's a lot of foods, you can go into Whole Foods, you can go into health food stores that I call it a health halo. They have a health halo, it's health washing. So they'll take something like a chip or a tortilla chip or a pita chip or something that's in a packet or and they'll give it this beautiful kind of health halo. Oh, look at the labels that you read now on the front of things. You get this long list. It's gluten-free, it's paleo, it's keto, it's this, it's that, all these things. And honestly, if you really look at that, the gluten-free one is a big one. Is that going to, no, that could be actually the worst thing if something's gluten-free, because turn to the back of the ingredient list. Don't read the front of the label, ladies. Turn the back and read the ingredients. And you're going to see in many gluten-free products, this is just one example, there's all these refined and highly processed flours and sugars and milk powders and goodness knows what else. So don't be fooled by the health halo, because again, you go to a health food store and there are hundreds of thousands in the vegan aisles of highly processed foods. They're not going to do you any favors, and they could be just as addictive as all the other sort of more obvious processed foods. Anything that is processed, that has had all the fiber taken out of it, is jacked up with oil, some kind of oil, a salt, lots of sodium, oil, salt, sugar, and other additives. And of course, the food manufacturers, they know. They have neuroscientists working for them. They know what triggers your brain to want more. To want more. To eat a little bit of that food, it doesn't fill you up, doesn't signal the stretch receptors in your tummy, but boy, oh boy, you need more. You actually are hungrier after eating it. So the key is to really have an honest conversation with yourself and go, what are the foods that I'm addicted to? Is it oily, salty? Is it sweet? Is it a little bit of both? Most of my clients tend to kind of go almost one way or the other, but most of us, the foods are addictive. They're like drugs around us. And much like the cigarette companies back in the day, there's a very close parallel with the marketing and all of the nonsense that went into, oh, it's healthy, oh, it's not bad for you, oh, here's the start. Literally with cigarettes, it's not that bad. No, they don't cause lung cancer. And, the massive marketing to certain populations of people where they, on and on. Same thing is going on with these weight loss drugs. So foods are addictive. There are certain foods that are highly, highly addictive. And so you cannot expect yourself not to reach for these foods if they're in your environment, if they're in your home, if they're in your shopping cart, if they're in your whatever it is. If you bring those foods into the home, or if somebody else does, then it's going to be very hard for you to, good luck, basically. And some of us, it's a little harder, right? Because we have other people, families in our home that bring those foods in. But this is where you have to get really smart, have very strong boundaries, know how to handle that. And that's how I coach my clients. And so this is really important. And if any of you, by the way, are really struggling with this, with this piece, then you can absolutely reach out to me. And I'm going to put a link. Actually, I'm going to put it in now. I'll put a little link in here. And you can reach out to me there you go. If you want to book a free breakthrough session with me, which is where we can chat. I can figure out what you're struggling with, find out everything that's going on with your health, your mindset, your life, and see if we would be a good fit to work together. It's a free call. I call it a breakthrough session. So I put the link in the chat. Now, so addictive foods. Number 3 is mindset. So the mindset is everything, because if you are eating, who's stressed? Who feels more do you find yourself saying in your life, I'm so busy, I'm so stressed, I'm so burned out, I work so hard, I've got so much going on, I'm looking after my parents, I'm looking after my kids, I'm putting out fires, I've got my work. Okay, I don't think I've ever worked with a woman who doesn't have at least 2 or 3 of those things going on. So unfortunately, this is very much a modern day life problem is the stress that we live under. And so we have to learn to manage our stress. And more importantly, because it's all very well for me to say, manage your stress. It's like, yeah, great. How? But really, truly, it's about, rather than going, I've got to get the stress away from me, or I shouldn't be stressed, because some stress is good. That's there. It's called life. And life is in session and life's happening. But it's how do you develop a mindset, it's going back to that empowering piece. How do you develop an empowered mindset so that you can handle whatever's going on in your life, feeling empowered and calm and strong and showing up in the way that you want to, being the woman who you want to be, to deal with whatever it is that you're going through. So that's the piece. And why I've put this in here in terms of a point in regulating appetite is that if you're stressed and you're not dealing with your stress and you're feeling like you're completely going sideways all the time and you're burned out and exhausted and not getting enough sleep, what's going to happen? You're going to be much more predisposed to want to comfort eat, stress eat. It's called comfort eating and stress eating for a reason. You don't feel comfortable in your own skin. You're unhappy. You're stressed. You feel less than, you feel burned out, you're not doing very well. So most people will go to something to numb that pain. It can be food, it can be social media, it can be online shopping, it can be Netflix, it can be anything to give me that dopamine hit to numb the fact that I don't feel good. And so we have to deal with that. That's what the underlying issue is that needs to be dealt with, in order that you actually really can regulate your appetite. So the first 2 points that I've given you are strategies. And as a coach, there's strategy and there's mindset. And I always go to mindset first, always. And you need to go to mindset first. And then we can put strategy into place. But a strategy without underpinned by a really strong mindset is probably not going to last very long. And that's why I always talk about mindset. So those 3 things, just to recap, and then I'm going to take questions. 1 is a whole food plant-based diet properly planned. 2 is get the addictive foods out of your life. Recognize what they are for you and how they're coming into your life, and do not expect you can handle them. It would be like somebody who's addicted to cigarettes or alcohol, and just saying, don't worry, all you need to do is just cut back a little bit. Just have quarter of the cigarette or a little sip of the alcohol. Is that going to work? No. So the only thing that's going to work is get rid of it, go cold turkey, deal with all the difficult emotions that you've been pushing down through the drinking or the cigarette or the comfort eating or whatever. That has to be dealt with. You may need help with dealing with that. Most of my clients do. We have to lean into those feelings and those emotions. We have to feel to heal. So that's really what I've got to give you. So the answer is almost always, it's not a quick fix. It's not also known as a Band-Aid. It's a deeper solution. But, at very least, know what those addictive foods are for you. Know that it's not your fault to have those foods around. It's not. The food manufacturers are much smarter than we are. They know our brain science. They know how we've evolved over hundreds of thousands of years to crave certain tastes in certain combinations. In many of these processed foods, there's over 150 different chemicals in these foods to signal your brain to make you want to eat more, and beverages as well. Smarter than you are, more powerful than you are. Don't even mess with them. Get rid of them. All right, I'm going to take a couple of questions before I go. Oh, that's really great. That's beautiful, Maria, coming off Ozempic. And thank you for being honest and vulnerable about that, by the way. Yes, and now it is about dealing with the addiction, isn't it? And really dealing with it in a really healthy and deep and profound way, so that you don't have to take the drugs again. So I want to thank you for being vulnerable and honest on this chat, Maria. Right, somebody else had a question about fatty liver disease. And I thank you for asking that question. And feel free to ask me. I've got 5 minutes just to take some questions before I go. Somebody else asked me what the fatty liver question. It's astonishing. 1 in 3 women have fatty liver disease. And it's called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Obviously, there's fatty liver disease, which is from alcohol, which is cirrhosis. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is different. And that's very often from, being overweight. It very often goes with the territory of being pre-diabetic or diabetic, being overweight, being obese. It's part of what the umbrella that we call metabolic syndrome. Now, the really good news is, and in answer to your question, whoever asked me that question, I don't have your name, is that you can reverse it before it is too late. There is a tipping point with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease where it goes into, cirrhosis, where then it's trickier. You're in a harder situation, but you absolutely can. And for anyone who's listening or watching, if you have type 2 diabetes, if you are pre-diabetic, if you have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, even if you think, let's just go down the list here, that my metabolism is shot because I spent 30 years dieting, or I've got thyroid, very low thyroid, or I've got Hashimoto's, or whatever it is, regardless of all of the above, you can get the result you want. You just might need some help to put it into place and plan it properly and get the mindset piece in there too. But make no mistake, there is nobody for whom it's a lost cause. There's something more wrong with you. It's too late. I promise you, there is hope. How do you know if you have fatty liver disease? You have to get a scan. The only way that you can get your blood tested for liver enzymes, and they can see if your liver enzymes are elevated. But the only way really to conclusively understand what's really going on is to have a scan. So you'd need to go to your doctor. And if you're worried about it, say, first off, can you test my liver enzymes, see if they're elevated? I'm a little concerned. I'm pre-diabetic. I'm diabetic. And then the next piece you would request, or they may request for you and say, let's do a scan. But it is a good thing to know if you're worried about that. Blood work, exactly. Go and get the blood work done, and that should very often shows. Okay, Kathy, thoughts about fake vegan meat products if they're made with healthier ingredients? Really great question. It depends, Kathy, because what I would need to do is look at the actual ingredients, and there's a vast array of ingredients, whether it's isolated soy or isolated pea protein, or whether we're getting a lot of really interesting meat alternatives made out of it's a mushroom, it's more of a technology actually, there's all sorts of different things. So it's hard for me to give you a hard and fast answer on this, or a really clear-cut answer, Kathy. I would say that the thing that you really want to look at when you go in the store and you pick up a sort of fake meat or cheese product is look for sodium, because very often, like what takes probably 98% of them off my list for my clients, is that they're just so high in sodium. And the other piece is that they can be very high in fat as well. And you want to look for additives as well, because, all those additives and stuff that's put in them. So that's that. All right, let's just see. There's another one. I'm food addict. Yes. Constantly surrounded by addictive foods at work. Understand how I can have the food I struggle with cravings. Absolutely. And thank you for saying that. Again, I haven't got your name didn't come up, but yes. And I think, part of the battle, and again, thank you for being so honest and vulnerable about that, because it's not easy to sort of admit these things. But I think part of it, just knowing, that you're accepting, it's just like, okay, I acknowledge, I accept that that I am completely powerless. It's like, 12-step programs, addiction programs, the first step is, I am powerless over whatever it is, whatever the substance is. And I think part of it is just accepting that, because I think the problem is when we think that I can handle it. I can manage it. I can have one potato chip or a handful of potato chips or a brownie and whatever. And I think that, with food addiction, there's a very, very big spectrum. And I find this with the women that I work with. On the sort of lower end of the scale, I'd say there are women who are, if I have a little ice cream, I definitely want some more. And if I can't have just one salty smokehouse nut, I'm definitely going to have more than just, a couple. And then on the other end of the scale, there's just full blown, like literally, I have one cookie and then the whole sleeve is gone. Or I have one, so you sort of have to know where you are on that spectrum. And then again, if anybody's really struggling and you want to know, whether because it's only then that you can find the help that you need. So if it's sort of full-blown food disorder, then that would be somewhere that I would steer you to somebody to really help you with that. But if it's just cravings and I'm just like addicted to these and I just crave them all the time and I have sugar cravings, then that's definitely something that I can help you with. Because the thing with that, as I said before, it's strategy. Yes, there is a definite strategy that is going to go 50% to really helping you with those cravings. But it sounds like your question is that you're already doing those pieces like whole food, plant-based, going really low in salt or sugar, etc. But it sounds like the missing piece of that is maybe something that you need to lean into and deal into some underlying issues that are really going to help to take away those cravings and lean into them and learn how to manage them from a mindset perspective. So I hope that helps you, but you're always welcome to book a call with me if that's something that you're really struggling with. Well, last question here. Can you give us examples of a whole food diet? I'm vegetarian. I'm curious what whole food entails. Yeah, so whole food is basically, there are lots of different definitions of a whole food plant-based diet. In my book, we're talking whole foods, which are not processed foods. So again, that speaks to the fake cheese and fake meat and everything else, because a lot of those foods are highly processed. In terms of a strictly whole food diet, again, there's a sliding scale with that, because if it was strictly absolutely whole, intact grains, then you would obviously have nothing that is in, or virtually nothing that's in a jar, a packet, whatever else. So all food, even some really healthy foods and grains and whatnot, have some degree of processing. But what we want to look for is minimally processed foods, that are as close to their source and as intact as possible. So that's really, really, really important. So whole foods that's what the whole food is. Obviously, the plant-based is, we're going to get as many of our macronutrients as we can from food. And we want to get all of our macros taken care of by way of a plant-based diet, which is really easy to do. You need to make sure in every single meal that you're getting enough protein, enough of carbohydrate, and enough fats, healthy fats as well. But again, this is a sort of bigger discussion, because within this, it needs to be a really well-planned diet. It has to be. Because where I see people going sideways and wrong is that they're not getting enough of this, they're not getting enough of that. They've been brainwashed to say that they shouldn't eat this, or that this is bad for you, or this causes cancer, or this is going to gain weight. There's so much misinformation on the internet. It is bananas. Speaking of which, you can eat bananas, but there really is, truly. So, part of what I do is I work with women to sort of put all that straight, and get them to, we create together with them a really well-planned diet with the right supplementation and all of that. So that's all I got today. Thank you for joining me. Hope you found this as helpful, and just know that you absolutely can lose weight naturally. And you got to be patient. You got to do the work. You got to roll up your sleeves. It's not a quick fix. It's not even necessarily an easy solution. Particularly if you've, been struggling for a long, long time. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some figuring out. You've got to be 100% committed. The women that I work with have really outstanding results. And the reason why is because they're so committed. They're just like, I've had enough. I'm sick and tired, and I'm 100% committed. And so in my book, and having worked with women for many years, 1 foot in and 1 foot out makes life hard for you. You've got to be both feet in, and that's really going to get you a result. So that's it from me. But look, just watch, keep your eagle eye out, because when you see, advertisements and you see people talking about it and ads on TV and just be so aware of how they are trying to make something that's not a long-term solution seem like it's a really healthy, impactful solution for you, when most of the time it's really not. It's certainly not a long-term solution. See you next time. Bye-bye, ladies. Bye, and gents, if there's any gents on. Bye.